V Commander Lee stood on the bridge of the human warship Defender, staring at the massive alien fleet that had just appeared on his screens. The ships were huge, dark, and covered in sharp angles that made them look like flying weapons. There were so many of them that they blocked out the stars behind them. "How many?" asked quietly. 120 ships, sir," answered Captain Bay, his tactical officer. She was a thin woman with sharp eyes that never missed a detail. "They're military class, all of them." Felt his stomach tighten. The human fleet at station had only 12 ships, 12 against 120. The numbers were impossible. "They're sending a message," said Lieutenant Sung-Oh from the communications station. He was young, barely 25, but he was the best computer expert they had. "Put it on screen," ordered. The flickered and showed an alien face. The commander was tall, with dark red skin and 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern on his face. Sharp teeth showed when he opened his mouth to speak. Behind him could see other working at their stations, all of them moving with military precision. "I am War Master and of the Empire," the alien said. His voice was deep and rough like rocks grinding together. "You are the humans of Earth. We have studied your species. Your ships are weak. Your weapons are primitive. Your numbers are nothing." Said nothing. He knew better than to interrupt an alien who was making threats. "The Galactic Council was foolish to accept you as members," and continued. "Humanity is not ready for space. You are children playing with tools you do not understand. Therefore, the Empire will take control of Earth. You will become our workers. Your planet will serve our needs." "That's not going to happen," said calmly, and made a sound that might have been laughter. "You cannot stop us, but we are not monsters. We follow the old ways. I offer you an honor battle. One battle following traditional rules. If you win, we leave your species alone forever. If we win, Earth becomes ours without further fighting. This saves many lives." Glanced at, she gave a small nod. They both knew they had no real choice. If they refused, they would simply attack with their full fleet. At least this way they had a chance, however small. "What are the terms?" asked. "We fight in the Helios asteroid field," and said. "The asteroids will make your weak shields and our strong shields equal. No tricks. No running away, a true battle between warriors. You have 72 hours to prepare. If you run, we destroy Earth." The screen went black. The bridge was silent for a moment. Everyone was thinking the same thing. They were going to die in 3 days. "Could we run?" asked Sung. "Get back to Earth and warn them." "They'd catch us before we made it halfway," said. "Their ships are faster than ours." Walked to the window and looked out at the alien fleet. They weren't even trying to hide. They just sat there in space, confident and waiting. Why wouldn't they be confident? They had won every honor battle they had ever fought. They had conquered 43 species in the last 500 years. Every single time they won. "Get me Lieutenant Jin on the science ship," said suddenly. Sung worked his controls. "He's online, sir." Another face appeared on a smaller screen. Lieutenant Jin was older, maybe 50, with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been studying alien warfare for years. "Jin, I need everything you have on battle tactics," said. "How do they fight? What do they do? Everything." Jin nodded slowly. "I'll send you my files, but Commander, I should tell you now. The Never Lose, they have a perfect record. Every species fights them the same way they fight, straight lines, big guns trying to overpower them. And they always have more ships, bigger guns." "Then we won't fight them that way," said. Sir looked confused. "Get me every captain in the fleet. Also, bring engineer and doctor I'm to my ready room. I want to talk to all of them in 1 hour." Turned from the window. "And Sung, I need you to access the Earth Historical Database. Military history, all of it." "All of it, sir? That's thousands of years of—" "All of it," repeated. "Every war, every battle, every fight that humans ever had with each other. I want it ready to search." Stepped closer to and spoke quietly. "What are you thinking?" looked at her. The said we're primitive, that we're children. Maybe they're right about our technology, but there's one thing humans have that they don't. What's that? Practice, said. We've been killing each other for 10,000 years. We got very, very good at it. 1 hour later, ready room was crowded. All 12 ship captains were there on video screens. Engineer stood near the wall, her arms crossed. She was short and stocky, with hands that were always covered in grease from working on engines. Dr. I am sat in a corner, watching everything with her calm, intelligent eyes. Stood in the center of the room. We have 3 days before the battle. We're outnumbered 10-1. Our ships are slower and weaker than theirs. By every reasonable calculation, we're going to lose. No one said anything. They all knew it was true. But I'm not going to accept that, continued. They think they know how to fight. They've beaten everyone they've faced, but they've never fought humans before. They don't understand what makes us different. What makes us different? Asked Captain Bow. He was the youngest captain in the fleet, only 30 years old. We're the species in space. Everyone has better technology than us. Technology, yes, said, but not experience. Lieutenant Jin, show them what you found. Jin pulled up data on the screens. The fight in standard formations. They use overwhelming force. They're predictable because honor is important to them. They think tricks and deception are cowardly. Every species they've fought has tried to match them, ship for ship, gun for gun, and every species has lost. So we don't match them, said Captain. She was old, maybe 60, and had fought in the border wars 20 years ago. We use tricks. We use deception. Exactly, said. And humans are the best at that. We've been doing it for thousands of years. He turned to Sung, show them. Sung brought up images from Earth's history. Old battles fought with swords and spears, ships made of wood, soldiers on horses, armies facing each other across fields. What are we looking at? Bo asked. Our real education, said. While they were conquering space, humans were conquering each other. We fought wars for land, for food, for ideas, for everything. We learned how to win when we were outnumbered, how to trick enemies, how to use the ground, the weather, the terrain, how to make them think we were weak when we were strong, or strong when we were weak. Spoke up from the wall. You want to fight them like ancient humans fought. I want to fight them like humans, corrected. Using everything we learned from 10,000 years of war. They have technology, we have history. He looked around the room. Everyone listened carefully. For the next 72 hours, you're all going to become students. We'll teach you about a man named Hannibal who beat an army twice his size by surrounding them. Jin will show you how a commander named Yi won with 13 ships against 133. We'll teach you about traps and tricks. We'll teach you about an old book called The Art of War. And you, asked. Smiled for the first time. I'm going to figure out how to beat an alien empire using Bronze Age tactics. Now let's get to work. We have 3 days to learn what took humanity 10,000 years to figure out. The next 3 days were like going back to school, except school had never been this intense. Every captain, every officer, every crew member studied Earth's ancient wars. They watched recordings of battles that happened thousands of years ago. They read about commanders who were dead long before humans ever reached space. Sat in his quarters watching a recording of something called the Battle of Canna. On the screen, tiny figures representing soldiers moved across a map. A commander named Hannibal had only 40,000 men. The Roman army had 80,000. The Romans were sure they would win. Watch what happens, said, leaning forward. Hannibal put his weakest troops in the center and his strongest troops on the sides. When the Romans attacked, the center fell back slowly like it was breaking. The Romans pushed harder, thinking they were winning. Then Hannibal's strong troops on the sides moved in. They wrapped around the Romans like closing a box. The Romans were trapped. They couldn't move. They couldn't escape. They lost. Encirclement, said slowly. He made them think they were winning, then surrounded them. Exactly, said. And we can do the same thing with ships, that will expect us to fight them head-on. Instead, we fall back, let them chase us, then close in from the sides. Nodded, but we need to make them want to chase us. They need to think we're scared. Won't be hard, said with a small smile. We are scared. In the science ship, Jin was teaching Bo and 3 other young captains about Admiral Yi Sun Sin. The recording showed old wooden ships with curved roofs, fighting in a narrow strait between 2 pieces of land. Admiral Yi had 13 ships, Jin explained. The enemy had 133, 10 times more. Everyone thought Yi was crazy to fight, but he knew something the enemy didn't. He knew about the tides. Tides? Bo asked. Ocean currents, Jin said. The water moved in certain ways at certain times. He positioned his ships where the current would push the enemy into his weapons. He also used the narrow passage so the enemy couldn't use all their ships at once. They had to come at him in small groups. Bo's eyes lit up. The asteroid field, we can use it like the narrow strait. Yes, Jin said. And there's something else. The Helios field is near a gas giant. That planet creates gravitational currents in space. If we time it right, we can use those currents just like you use the ocean. Down in the engineering section was explaining explosives to Captain and 2 other veteran officers. She held up a small device that glowed blue. We have 48 hours left, said. I can't build better guns or stronger shields in that time, but I can do this. She activated a hologram showing an asteroid. We can hollow out asteroids and put bombs inside them. They won't scan for them because they think mining asteroids is beneath them. When their ships get close, boom. How many can you make? Asked. With my whole team working, maybe 50. That's only 50 asteroids in a field of thousands, another captain said. They could fly through and never hit one. Smiled. Unless we make them go exactly where we want them to go, that's where you come in. You'll chase them, drive them, herd them like animals right into our traps. Like hunters, said. Exactly like hunters, agreed. In the medical bay, Dr. Iam was teaching a different kind of lesson. She sat with a group of junior officers, reading from an old book on a data pad. This was written by a man named Sun over 2,000 years ago, said. It's called The Art of War. Listen to this. All warfare is based on deception. When you are strong, appear weak. When you are near, appear far. When you are far, appear near. Sounds like lying, one officer said. It is lying, agreed. But in war, the best way to save lives is to make the enemy make mistakes. If they think you're weak, they'll attack carelessly. If they think you're strong, they might not attack at all. Sun also said, the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. But if you must fight, fight smart, not hard. They won't respect that, another officer said. They care about honor. Their idea of honor, corrected. We have a different idea. We think honor means protecting your people by any means necessary. That includes tricks if tricks save lives. On the second day, called another meeting. This time he wanted reports. What did you learn? He asked. Besides Kana, I studied the Mongol invasions, said. The Mongols would pretend to run away. Their enemies would chase them, thinking they won. But the Mongols were leading them into ambushes. They did it over and over, and it worked every time. We'll use that, said Jin. I've been calculating the gravitational currents in Helios, Jin said. At exactly 1400 hours on battle day, there will be a strong current flowing east to west. If we anchor our ships to asteroids, we'll be stable. Enemy ships without anchors will drift. How long does the current last? 12 minutes. That's all we'll need, said. He turned to, how are the traps coming? 42 asteroids mined and armed so far, said. We'll hit 50 by tomorrow. I've also been thinking about something else. What if we don't just put bombs in asteroids? What if we put bombs on cables between asteroids, like a net? Raised his eyebrows. Can you do that? Already started, said. Give me 20 more hours. You have it, looked at. Doctor, you've been quiet. Stood up. I've been thinking about psychology. They think they're superior. They think we're primitive. That's good for us. It means they'll underestimate us. They'll expect us to panic, to make mistakes, to break formation. We can use that. How? Asked. We give them what they expect at first, said. We run, we scatter, we look terrified. They'll think they were right about us. They'll chase us without thinking, and that's when we spring the trap. Nodded slowly. So the plan is, we pretend to run, lead them into the asteroid field, separate their forces, then surround them and use the gravitational current to pin them down while we hit them with everything we have. Using tactics from Hannibal, Admiral Yi, the Mongols, and Sun, added. Tactics that are thousands of years old, Bo said. He sounded worried. What if they studied them too? They didn't, Jin said. I've been reading Galactic Council records. Alien species don't study Earth history because they think it's irrelevant. They only study our technology. They don't understand that warfare is about thinking, not just shooting. They have won every battle because every species fights them the same way, said. Big fleet formations. Lots of firepower. Straight-on attacks. We're going to do something they've never seen before. Something that only makes sense if you've studied human history. On the third day, with only 12 hours left before the battle, gathered everyone one final time. The captains appeared on screens. The officers stood in the room. Even and were there, their faces tired from working non-stop. We're as ready as we'll ever be, said. Each of you knows your role. Bo, you're the bait. You'll lead them in. You command the left wing. Captain Han, you have the right wing. When I give the signal, you close the trap. What if it doesn't work? Bo asked quietly. The room went silent. Everyone had been thinking it, but Bo had the courage to say it. Looked at the young captain. Then we'll adapt. That's another thing humans learned. We don't give up just because the first plan fails. We try something else, and something else, and something else. We keep fighting until we win or until we can't fight anymore. They have never seen that either, added. They're used to enemies who surrender when things go wrong. We won't. One more thing, said. He pulled up an image on the screen. It was an old Earth flag, but not from any one country. It was the United Earth banner that humanity had made when they finally stopped fighting each other and went to space together. They think Earth is weak because we were divided for so long, said. They think all our wars made us broken, but those wars taught us how to fight, how to survive, how to win against impossible odds. We learned from every culture, every nation, every people. They learned war from conquering others. We learned war from fighting ourselves. That makes us better teachers. And tomorrow, we're going to teach them something they'll never forget. The room was quiet for a moment, then spoke up. What's that? Smiled grimly. That underestimating humanity is the last mistake you ever make. After the meeting, found alone in his quarters. He was looking at star maps of the Helios field, planning ship positions in his head. Do you really think this will work? She asked. Was silent for a long moment. I think we have a chance, a real chance, not because we're stronger or faster or have better weapons, but because we're human, and humans have been beating impossible odds since we lived in caves. That's not a very scientific answer, said. No, agreed. But sometimes the best answers aren't scientific. Sometimes they're just true. He looked at her. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we make history, one way or another. The Helios asteroid field looked like a graveyard of broken planets. Rocks the size of cities floated in the darkness, slowly tumbling through space. Some were as small as houses. Others were bigger than mountains. Between them, space dust glittered like snow. Stood on the bridge of the Defender, watching his screens. His 12 ships were positioned at the edge of the field, spread out in a loose line. They looked small and fragile compared to the massive fleet that was moving toward them. Enemy fleet entering scanner range, Sung reported. His voice was steady, but his hands shook slightly on his controls. 120 ships confirmed. They're in formation Delta 7. Delta 7, repeated. She pulled up the file that Jin had made. That's their standard attack formation, like a spearhead. The strongest ships at the front, weaker ships behind. They'll try to punch through our center and split us apart. Let them try, said quietly. All ships, this is Commander Lee. Stay calm. Remember your training. Remember why we're here. Humanity is counting on us. He switched to a private channel. Bo, you ready? In his small cruiser, the Lightning, Captain Bo took a deep breath. Ready, sir. My crew knows the plan. Good, you're the most important part of this. If they don't chase you, nothing else works. They'll chase me, Bo said. I'm going to make them very, very angry. The fleet came closer. On they could see N's flagship at the front. It was 3 times bigger than any human ship, covered in weapons and armor. Behind it, the other ships moved in perfect formation, like a well-trained army. They're sending a message, Sung said. Put it through. And appeared on screen. He looked even more confident than before. Humans, this is your last chance to surrender. Give up now and your deaths will be quick. Fight and we will make you suffer. We'll fight, said simply. And showed his sharp teeth. I expected nothing less from primitives. You will die with honor at least. That is more than most deserve. The screen went black. All ships, ordered. Move forward, slow speed. Make it look like we're going to meet them head-on. The 12 human ships moved toward the fleet. They kept their formation tight, like they were going to fight a traditional battle. On the ships, commanders probably smiled. This was exactly what they expected. Weak, stupid humans trying to match them ship for ship. Range in 30 seconds, said. 20 seconds. 10 seconds. Now, shouted. All ships scatter, execute retreat pattern Alpha. The tight human formation broke apart like an explosion. Each ship turned and ran in a different direction, diving into the asteroid field. On the flagship, alarms probably rang. This wasn't how battles were supposed to go. They're breaking, An's voice came over the open channel. Cowards, chase them down. Don't let a single human escape. The fleet roared forward. Their formation started to break as different ships chased different human vessels. This was exactly what wanted. A fleet together was strong. A fleet split apart was vulnerable. Bo's ship, the Lightning, flew deep into the asteroid field. Behind him, 15 ships chased. They were faster than him, gaining quickly. Come on, Bo whispered, a little closer. His pilot, a woman named Kay Song, flew between asteroids with incredible skill. She missed rocks by meters, sometimes by centimeters. The followed, but they weren't as good at flying in tight spaces. 2 of them crashed into asteroids, exploding in bright flashes. That's 2 down, Kay said. 13 to go, Bo replied. We're approaching the first trap zone. From her position on ship, watched her screens. She could see Bo's ship and the chasing it. They were exactly where she wanted them. Her finger hovered over a button. 3 seconds, she said. 2, 1 now. She pressed the button. 5 asteroids exploded at once. But they didn't just explode outward, had shaped the charges carefully. The explosions created walls of debris that shot sideways, crossing the path of the ships. 3 vessels flew right into the debris storm. Their shields lit up, trying to stop the rocks, but there were too many pieces moving too fast. The shields failed. The ships were torn apart. 10 left on my tail, Bo reported. He sounded excited now. They're getting mad. Let them get mad, said. Keep leading them deeper. All over the asteroid field, the same thing was happening. Human ships ran. Ships chased. And one by one, they flew into traps. Some hit mines hidden in asteroids. Others flew through cables that had strung between rocks. The cables wrapped around their engines and tore them apart. On the flagship, and watched his fleet count dropping, 20 ships destroyed, then 25, then 30. What is happening? He roared at his officers. How are they doing this? They're using the asteroids as weapons, War Master, one officer said. They've turned the entire field into a trap. Cowards, and slammed his fist on his command chair. This is not honorable combat, this is trickery. It's working, sir. An's 4 eyes narrowed. Pull the fleet back. Reform. We'll clear the asteroids with weapons fire, then advance carefully. But had expected this. He had studied the records. He knew they would try to regroup when things went wrong. He switched to the fleet channel. All ships, this is Phase 2. Han, take your wings and circle around. Bo, drive your group toward the center. Everyone else, start the push. Make them think we're attacking now. The scattered human ships suddenly changed direction. Instead of running away, they turned and started flying toward the fleet. At the same time, and Captain Han took their ships wide around the edges of the asteroid field, moving to flank the. On An's screen, it looked like the humans had stopped running. Now they wanted to fight. Finally, An growled. They're showing some courage. All ships, Formation Delta 7, will meet them head-on and crush them with firepower. The fleet pulled together, forming their spear shape again. They had 90 ships left, still more than enough to destroy 12 human ships. The fleets moved toward each other. The distance closed, 5,000 kilometers, 4,000, 3,000. Weapons range in 10 seconds, reported. Watched his tactical display. They were exactly where he wanted them, bunched together, focused on his ships, not paying attention to the asteroids around them, not noticing that in Han's wings were almost in position. All ships said, remember Canna, we're the weak center, we fall back when they hit us. 2,000 kilometers, said. 1,000. Weapons range. Both fleets opened fire at the same time. Lasers and missiles filled the space between them. Human shields lit up as weapons hit them. Shields glowed as human weapons struck. Shields at 60%, Sung reported. 50%, 40. Fall back, ordered. Make it look good like we're scared. The human ships turned and retreated deeper into the asteroid field. Their weapons still fired, but they were moving away from the. On the flagship, this looked like victory. They're breaking again, and laughed. All ships forward, don't let them escape. The fleet charged after the retreating humans. Their spear formation pushed deep into the asteroid field, chasing what they thought was a defeated enemy. Watched his tactical display. They were in the center now, committed, fully engaged. He looked at the positions of An Han's wings. They were ready. He said quietly, now. Pressed a button. All wings execute encirclement, close the trap. From both sides of the asteroid field, An Han's ships appeared. They had been hiding behind large asteroids, invisible to scanners. Now they came out and flew straight at the flanks. At the same time, the retreating human ships stopped and turned around. Suddenly, they weren't chasing a defeated enemy. They were surrounded. What? And stood up from his chair. Where did they come from? Both sides, War Master. They were hiding. That's impossible, our scanners. They used the asteroids to block our scanners, the officer said. It's a trick. On the defender's bridge, allowed himself a small smile. Just like Hannibal, he said. Make them think they're winning, then close the box. The human ships opened fire from all directions. They tried to return fire, but they were confused now. They didn't know which way to shoot. Their formation fell apart as ships turned to face different threats. Said the cables. With pleasure, replied. She pressed a series of buttons. All around the fleet, cables that had been hidden in the asteroid field activated. They were connected to asteroids on both ends, creating a net around them. Some of the cables had explosives attached. Others were just strong metal, meant to tangle engines and weapons. Ships tried to fly through the cables. Some made it. Others got caught. Their engines pulled against the cables, but the asteroids were too heavy. The ships were stuck like fish in a net. 15 more ships destroyed, reported. 20, 25. They're trying to break out on the western side, Jin said. Their dreadnoughts are leading the escape attempt. Check the time. 1 more hour until the gravitational current. They needed to keep the here until then. All ships focus on those dreadnoughts. Don't let them break the line. The battle became chaos. Ships flew in all directions, dodging asteroids and each other. Lasers and missiles lit up the darkness. Explosions bloomed like flowers. They were still dangerous, still deadly. But they were trapped and they knew it. On the flagship and stared at his tactical display in disbelief. He had 90 ships. The humans had 12. He should be winning. But his fleet count kept dropping. 65 ships. 60. 55. How, he whispered, how are they doing this? No one answered. No one knew. They had never seen warfare like this before. And refused to accept defeat. He was a war master of the Empire. He had conquered 6 species himself. His record was perfect. And now these primitive humans with their weak ships and small fleet were somehow winning. Concentrate all fire on their command ship, he ordered. Kill their leader and they'll fall apart. 20 ships turned their weapons toward the defender, saw them coming. Shields up full, evasive maneuvers, he shouted. The defender dove behind a large asteroid. Weapons hit the rock instead, blasting huge chunks off it. Kay Song, who had joined bridge crew, flew the ship with incredible skill. She twisted and turned through the asteroid field, using the rocks as cover. They're not giving up, said. They're adapting. So are we, replied. Jin, how long until the current? 42 minutes, sir. 42 minutes. They had to survive for 42 more minutes. Then they could spring their final trap. The battle raged on. Bo's ship, damaged but still flying, led another group into an explosion. Swing caught 3 destroyers trying to escape and destroyed them. Han's ships held the eastern flank, preventing any breakthrough. But the humans were getting tired. They had been fighting for almost an hour. Their shields were weak. Their weapons were running low on ammunition. And they, despite their losses, still had 50 ships left, 50 against 12. On the flagship, an officer spoke urgently to N. War Master, we should retreat. We can return with more ships. This battle isn't worth. Silence, and roared. We do not retreat. The Empire does not run from primitives. But in his mind, doubt was growing. How were the humans doing this? What were they using? He studied the tactical display, really looked at it for the first time. The humans weren't just flying randomly. They were herding his ships, pushing them into certain positions. And those positions were all in the center of the asteroid field, where the rocks were thickest. They're boxing us in, he said quietly. This whole battle, they've been pushing us exactly where they want us. Why, War Master? I don't know, but we're going to find out. He opened a channel to all his ships. All vessels, maximum power to engines. We break out now all at once. Ignore the human ships. Just fly straight toward the edge of the field. Go. 50 ships fired their engines at full power. They stopped fighting and just flew, trying to escape the trap they suddenly realized they were in. On the defender, alarms rang. They're running, Sung shouted. All ships stopped them, ordered, but he knew it was no use. His 12 ships couldn't block 50 vessels. Some of them would escape. Unless... Jin, how long now? Jin looked at his calculations. His eyes went wide. 7 minutes, sir. Too long, they'll be gone by then. Actually, Jin said slowly, the current is already starting. It's weak now, but it's building. If we can slow them down for just 3 more minutes, it'll be strong enough. How do we slow them down? Asked. Thought fast, they were flying away at full speed. His ships couldn't catch them. His weapons weren't strong enough to stop them. He needed something else, something they hadn't used yet. Then he remembered something from his studies, something simple, something ancient. He said, those asteroids you mined, the ones we haven't used yet, where are they? All over the field, replied. Why? Can you make them move? Move, they're asteroids, Commander, they weigh millions of, she stopped. Wait, yes, yes, I can. The explosives aren't strong enough to destroy them, but they could give them a push. Like setting off a bomb on one side of a rock, it would fly toward the other side. Do it, ordered. Push every asteroid you can into the path, make them dodge, slow them down. That's crazy, said. That's human, corrected. Fingers flew over her controls. This is going to take perfect timing. I need to know exactly where each ship is going to be. Jin, help her, said. Jin and worked together, their screens showing complex calculations. They picked 5 large asteroids, each one the size of a building, positioned ahead of the fleeing ships. Ready, said. On my mark, 3, 2, 1, mark. 5 asteroids exploded, not destroyed but pushed. They began moving through space, directly into the path of the fleet. Asteroids incoming, an officer shouted on his ship. They're moving. That's impossible, and said, but he could see them on his screen. 5 massive rocks tumbling toward his fleet. Evasive maneuvers, he ordered. The ships had to slow down and turn to avoid the asteroids. Some managed it easily, others barely made it. 2 ships didn't make it at all and crashed into the rocks. But it bought time, precious seconds that turned into minutes. Current strength at 20%, Jin reported. 30%, 40%. All ships, said, anchoring positions, do it now. The 12 human ships flew to pre-selected asteroids. They extended cables with magnetic clamps and attached themselves to the rocks. It was something had designed, based on what Admiral Yi had done with ocean currents. The ships were now anchored in place. Current at 50%, Jin said, 60, 70. And felt something wrong. His ship was moving, but not the way he commanded. It was drifting sideways, pulled by an invisible force. What's happening? He demanded. Gravitational current, War Master. The gas giant Helios 5 is creating a tide in space. We're being pulled. Compensate with engines. We're trying, but the current is too strong. The ships, heavy and not anchored to anything, began to drift. They fought against it with their engines, but that just wasted fuel. The current pulled them sideways, turning them, spinning them. Their perfect formation became chaos. The human ships, anchored to asteroids, stayed exactly where they were. They could move and turn by adjusting their cables, but they weren't affected by the current. Now, shouted, all ships open fire, hit them while they can't maneuver. 12 human ships fired every weapon they had. The struggling against the gravitational current couldn't dodge. They were sitting targets. Shield systems failing, someone shouted on N's bridge. Engine 3 is down, Engine 2 is overheating. Return fire, and ordered. They tried, but their ships were spinning, drifting out of control. Their weapons pointed in the wrong directions. When they did manage to fire, the shots went wide, missing the anchored human ships. It was a massacre. Ships exploded one after another. 10 ships, 15, 20. The human weapons, designed to be efficient rather than powerful, found every weak spot in the shields. They hit engines, weapons, command centers. War Master, we must surrender, an officer pleaded. Never, and shouted, but even as he said it, he knew the battle was over. He had 50 ships when the current hit. Now he had 30, now 20, now 15. On the Defender watched the count drop. They're broken, she said quietly. Felt no joy, only relief. All ships cease fire, open a channel to N. Sir, Sung looked confused. We have them, we should finish it. No, said, we've won, there's no honor in slaughter. He looked at opened the channel. N's face appeared. He was injured with dark blood running down one side of his face. His ship was damaged, systems sparking behind him, but his 4 eyes still burned with intensity. What do you want, human? He asked. I want you to surrender, said simply. Order your ships to power down weapons, accept defeat, honor the terms of the honor battle. You think you've won, and said. You've used tricks, deception, cowardice. We use tactics, corrected. Strategy. Things your empire never learned because you never needed to. You always had more ships, more weapons. You won by being stronger. We had to win by being smarter. Where did you learn these tactics? And asked. His voice was different now, less angry, more curious. From ourselves, said. From human history, from thousands of years of warfare. We fought each other long before we reached space. We learned to win when winning seemed impossible. And was silent for a long moment. The gravitational current was ending now. His ships were stabilizing. He could order them to keep fighting. But his fleet was destroyed. Only 12 ships remained combat-capable, against 12 human ships that had just proven they could outfight, outthink, and outmaneuver anything the Empire could throw at them. I accept defeat, and said finally. The words seemed to hurt him physically. The honor battle is yours. Earth will remain free. Thank you, said. But I have one question, and continued. How? Your weapons are weaker, your shields thinner, your ships slower. We should have destroyed you in minutes. How did you win? Looked around his bridge. At who had studied Hannibal. At Jin, who had calculated the gravitational current like Admiral Yi. At who had built traps like ancient hunters. At Sung and Kay and all the others who had spent 3 days learning how humans fought wars thousands of years ago. We won, said, because we're human, and humans have been fighting impossible battles since the beginning of time. We learned something you never had to learn, how to beat an enemy that's stronger than you, how to use terrain, timing, and tactics instead of just power, how to make the other side fight on our terms, not theirs. You said you learned from yourselves, and said, explain. Took a deep breath. Commander, what I'm about to show you will change how you see humanity forever, and maybe how you see warfare itself. Knew this moment would define how aliens saw humanity forever. He could just accept the victory and send the home, but that wouldn't change anything. They would come back someday, or another species would challenge Earth. Humanity needed to make a statement that would echo across the galaxy. Sung, connect me to the Galactic Council Observation Channel, said. I want them to hear this too. Sir, Sung looked surprised. Do it. A moment later, several new faces appeared on smaller screens around the bridge, alien ambassadors from dozens of species. They had been watching the battle, expecting humanity to be crushed. Now they stared in confusion at the destroyed fleet. Members of the Galactic Council, said formally, and War Master N, you asked how we won this battle. The answer is complex, but it starts 10,000 years ago on a planet called Earth. He nodded to Jin, who began pulling up files. Images appeared on every screen, old pictures and videos from Earth's ancient history. This is Mesopotamia, said, as an image showed people with spears and shields. 5,000 years ago. This is one of the first organized armies in human history. They fought with bronze weapons, simple tools, but they developed formations, tactics, command structures. The aliens watched, looking confused. What did ancient primitives have to do with space warfare? This is the Battle of Marathon, continued. New images showed soldiers running across a field. The Athenians were outnumbered 2 to 1, so they made their center weak and their flanks strong. When the enemy attacked the center, the flanks closed in. Encirclement. The same tactic we just used against the fleet. N's eyes widened. That battle was 490 years before humans even understood that Earth was round, said. We've been perfecting these tactics for that long. More images, soldiers on horses, ships with sails, castles under siege. This is the Mongol Empire. They conquered most of Earth's largest continent using feigned retreats. They would pretend to run away, then ambush their enemies. They did it so well that people kept falling for it for decades. Just like you made us chase you, and said quietly. Exactly, agreed. And this is Admiral Yi Sun Sin. He fought with 13 ships against 133. He used ocean currents and narrow passages to negate the enemy's numbers. He positioned his ships where the water would push the enemy into his weapons. Jin added, "We used the same principle with the gravitational current. We studied what Admiral Yi did and applied it to space warfare." The images kept coming. Hundreds of battles, thousands of wars. The alien ambassadors watched in growing horror. Humans fighting humans with swords, guns, cannons, bombs, planes, missiles. City after city destroyed. Army after army slaughtered. War after war after war. "You fought yourselves?" asked Ambassador Kelvin, a thin gray alien from the council. "For all this time?" "Yes," said. "Every nation on Earth developed its own way of warfare. The Europeans had their formations and guns. The Asians had their cavalry and discipline. The Africans had their knowledge of terrain. The Americans had their guerrilla tactics. We learned from each other by fighting each other." "This is barbaric," another ambassador said. "It is," agreed. "We're not proud of our history. We killed millions of our own people. We destroyed our own cities. We perfected the art of destruction over 10,000 years. But that violent history taught us something that no other species had to learn." "What?" then asked. "How to win," said simply. "How to fight when you're outnumbered. How to beat an enemy with better weapons. How to use tricks and tactics instead of just power. Every human culture, every nation, every tribe had to learn these lessons because we were always fighting someone." He pulled up a specific image, an old book. "This is called The Art of War, written by a man named Sun over 2,000 years ago," he said. "All warfare is based on deception. When you are strong, appear weak. When you are weak, appear strong." "Deception is dishonorable," and said, but his voice lacked conviction now. "Maybe," said, "but it's effective." Sun also said, "The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. We'd rather not fight at all, but if we must fight, we fight to win." Dr. Im stepped forward. "War Master, may I ask you something? How many wars has the Empire fought?" "Hundreds," and said, "We have conquered 43 species." "And how many wars have you fought against other?" And paused. "We, none. Once we achieved we were united. We fought only aliens." "Humanity fought itself for 10,000 years before," said. "Every war taught us something new. We learned tactics from every defeat. We learned strategy from every victory. We studied warfare like a science. While your empire conquered others, we were conquering ourselves. And that made us very, very good at this." Captain spoke up from her ship. "I'm 60 years old. When I was young, humans still fought each other. The border wars, regional conflicts. We only united and stopped killing each other about 40 years ago. Some of us remember what it was like. We remember the lessons." "You stopped fighting?" asked Ambassador Kelvin. "Why?" "Because we finally realized something," said. "All that warfare, all those tactics, all that death, it made us experts at destroying each other. But it also taught us that war costs too much. We learned to work together. We put all that knowledge of warfare into defending ourselves, not attacking each other." He looked directly at him. "That's why we won today, not because we're better than you, but because we've been practicing warfare for 10,000 years. Every tactic we used against you, we learned from our own history. Hannibal's encirclement, the Mongol feigned retreat, Admiral Yi's use of currents, guerrilla ambushes, traps, deception. We didn't invent these tactics yesterday. We've been perfecting them for." The bridge was silent. The aliens were processing this information. One species, alone on a single planet, had spent 10,000 years fighting itself. They had turned warfare into an art, a science, a way of life. And now they had brought that knowledge to space. And stood up on his damaged bridge. His face was hard to read, but something had changed in his eyes. "Commander Lee, I came here thinking humans were primitive, weak, unworthy of respect." And now asked. "Now I understand that humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy," and said. "Not because of your weapons or your ships, but because you know how to fight, truly fight. You understand warfare in ways we never learned, in ways we never had to learn. He placed his hand over his chest in what recognized as a salute. The Empire will honor the treaty. Earth will remain free. But more than that, I will recommend to the Emperor that we never attack humanity again, and that we study your tactics. Perhaps we can learn from you. We'd be happy to teach you, said. But War Master, understand something. We don't want to be warriors anymore. We spent 10,000 years fighting. We're tired of it. We joined the Galactic Council because we want peace. We want to build, not destroy. Then why keep the knowledge? Asked Ambassador Kelvin. Because peace only works when everyone chooses it, answered. We hope we never have to fight again. But if someone threatens Earth, threatens humanity, threatens our friends, we remember how. Pulled up one final image. It was the United Earth banner showing the planet against a background of stars. This flag represents something unique in the galaxy. A species that fought itself for 10,000 years, learned every possible way to wage war, then chose to stop fighting and reach for the stars. We carry our history with us. All the battles, all the tactics, all the lessons, but we also carry our hope. That maybe, out here among the stars, we can use what we learned to protect rather than attack. He looked at all the screens, the ships, the alien ambassadors, his own tired crew. We won this battle today, but we don't want to win another one. We want allies, not enemies. We want to share what we know, not use it. The question is, will the galaxy accept that? Ambassador Kelvin spoke after a long silence. The Galactic Council has always wondered why we should accept humanity. Your technology is basic. Your ships are small. Your worlds are few, but now we understand. You bring something we don't have. Knowledge, experience. 10,000 years of warfare condensed into tactics and strategy. Another ambassador added, and you chose to stop. That might be even more impressive than the warfare itself. The Council will vote, Kelvin said, but I believe humanity has proven itself today, not just as fighters but as teachers. We would be honored if you would share your knowledge with the Council's defense forces. Felt relief wash over him. We accept. An's image flickered. His ship was badly damaged. Commander Lee, I must return to repair my vessels, but I will remember this day. The day the Empire learned respect. Safe travels, War Master said. The screens went dark one by one as the aliens disconnected. Soon, only the human ships remained, floating among the asteroids and the debris of battle. Sat down in his command chair for the first time in hours. His legs were shaking. His hands were trembling. The adrenaline that had kept him going was fatting. Is it really over? Bo asked over the comm. It's over, confirmed. We won. Earth is safe. Cheering erupted over every channel. On every ship, human crews celebrated. They had faced impossible odds and won. They had defended their home using tactics older than. But didn't cheer. He just looked out at the stars and thought about all the battles that had made this victory possible. Cana and Marathon and Mongol invasions, world wars and border conflicts, 10,000 years of human warfare, finally used for something good. Sat down next to him. What are you thinking? That we won by remembering history, said, but I hope we don't have to do it again. I hope this was the last battle. Maybe it was, said. Maybe now that they respect us, we can have peace. Maybe, agreed. He stood up and addressed his crew. All ships set course for home. We have people waiting to hear that Earth is safe, that humanity survived, that we proved ourselves worthy of the stars. As the 12 human ships began their journey home, thought about what they had accomplished. They hadn't just won a battle. They had shown the galaxy that humanity was more than just another species. They were survivors. They were warriors. They were students of warfare who had finally graduated. And more importantly, they were a species that had learned from their violent past and chosen a different future. The stars stretched out ahead of them, infinite and full of possibility. Humanity had earned its place among them, not through superior technology or greater numbers, but through the lessons learned from 10,000 years of fighting themselves. The aliens would remember this battle for a long time, the day humans used ancient tactics to defeat a modern empire, the day warfare became an art form taught by primitives to spacefaring civilizations. But hoped they would remember something else too, that humanity, despite knowing how to wage war better than anyone, chose peace, and that choice perhaps was the most dangerous lesson of all. Because a species that knows how to fight but chooses not to is more terrifying than any warrior. They're teachers, protectors, friends who can become nightmares if you threaten what they love. Earth was safe, humanity had respect, and the galaxy had learned that underestimating humans based on their technology was the biggest mistake anyone could make. Because humanity's greatest weapon wasn't ships or guns, it was history.